Hey everybody, Steve here with the About Mansfield podcast, and just like last week, we're changing things up just a little bit, possibly for the next few weeks as well, essentially so I can focus on more pressing matters around me. Our feature reporters, Angel, Beth, and Brian, have each filed reports. We will hear from them momentarily and then follow it up with an interview that we originally aired back in 2022 with Mansfield Methodist Medical Center's CEO, Juan Fresquez. As you may know, Mr. Fresquez was recently elected to the Mansfield City Council, and I thought it would be a good idea to reintroduce him to the Mansfield community. We thank you all for listening. Talk to you next week. In the meantime, let's turn the page to the features section.
I'm Angel Biasatti, and we'll be talking about why exercise may be a more efficient treatment for depression than antidepressants. And Methodist Mansfield News to Know.
I'm Beth Steinke, and today on the Mansfield Real Estate Update, we are talking about all the things you should know when visiting an open house.
In this week's Cocktail of the Week, I'll be talking about a cocktail that is a prospector's delight, a glimmering sip of honeyed, shaken, golden bliss.
Hey there, it's Luke from Cool Hand Electric. Are you tired of dealing with plugs or lights that just won't cooperate? Well, don't fret. Give us a call. Worried about power outages or surges damaging your precious electronics? We've got you covered. Whether it's a whole house generator or surge protection, our solution-oriented Cool Hands are ready to tailor the perfect option that suits your needs and budget. At Cool Hand Electric, excellence is still cool.
Cool Hand, Cool Hand, Cool Hand, where excellence is still cool.
Are you ready to take advantage of falling mortgage interest rates in the coming months? This is Roger with the Roger and Beth team. With housing demand predicted to increase across the DFW Metroplex, the Roger and Beth team are standing by to help move you and your family forward. No move in your future? That's okay too. It's time for your annual review of your real estate portfolio, and we're happy to help. Contact us at homesinmansfield.com. That's homesinmansfield.com.
Hi, this is Paul Duncan with Trinity Roofing and Construction. There are over 7,500 roofers in the North Texas area, and when a major hailstorm blows through town, that number skyrockets with companies as far away as Montana. In the planning stages of re-roofing your home, it's normal for customers to ask questions such as, where are they based out of and how many years' experience do they have roofing in North Texas? Trinity Roofing and Construction can answer each of these questions with confidence. As a family-owned, Mansfield-based business since 2011, Trinity Roofing and Construction recently received a Product Excellence Award by Owens Corning and are a Platinum Preferred Contractor with Owens Corning. Contact us today for a free, no-obligation video roof inspection. Rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau, Trinity Roofing and Construction. A Mansfield company, not only replacing roofs, but building relationships. Find us on the web at trinityroofingconstruction.com. That's trinityroofingconstruction.com.
Are you ready to create unforgettable memories? Picture this: an enchanting event venue nestled amidst breathtaking landscapes with panoramic views right here in Mansfield. The Grandview Event Center is the perfect setting to bring your vision to life. From intimate gatherings to large-scale extravaganzas, the Grandview has flexible spaces to accommodate any occasion, be it a wedding reception, corporate Christmas party, or community gathering. Book your next unforgettable experience at thegrandviewmansfield.com. That's thegrandviewmansfield.com. The Grandview Event Center, where memories are made and dreams become reality. Book your event today.
Hi, I'm Rosalie Gilbert, Cultural Arts Supervisor for the City of Mansfield. You're listening to About Mansfield.
According to a recent study, exercise is 1.5 times better, more effective, to reduce mild to moderate symptoms of depression, psychological stress, and anxiety than medication or cognitive behavior therapy, according to a new study in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. This study found that brief exercise programs provided more benefits than extended regimens, and that higher intensity activities produced the strongest benefits. While all forms of exercise can benefit one's health, the study found large reductions in depression were found for dancing, and moderate reductions in depression for walking, jogging, yoga, strength training, aerobic exercise, and Tai Chi. Ultimately, any amount of exercise improves your well-being and your mental health. That's Methodist Mansfield News to Know. I'm Angel Biasatti, reporting for the About Mansfield podcast.
So, you see an open house sign, and you've got a little time to kill, and you ask each other, you want to go check it out? Well, come on in. Today, we are pulling the curtain back on the open house. Love them or hate them, the open house is a real estate staple that isn't likely going away anytime soon. But do they sell houses? The short answer is occasionally. Are they necessary to sell a house? Absolutely not. So why do so many agents do them? Well, the answer is exposure. Yes, that's the dirty little secret your agent may not have told you. Am I expecting to meet buyers there? Yes. Am I expecting to sell the house I'm hosting? Not likely. But I'm also hoping to meet other neighbors who might be considering selling in the coming months or who are just checking out the competition. Truthfully, the best open house day is when I pick up a new buyer that doesn't already have an agent, or I impress a neighbor with my dazzling marketing flyer, or maybe even some fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. Real estate is a people business, and we really do love people and houses. So come on into our open house. We want to meet you, answer your questions about the house and the market, learn more about you and your reasons for stopping by, and to help you in any way we can. Important announcement alert. The realtor is not your enemy. In fact, if you don't have a realtor on speed dial in your phone, then we need to talk, and you need to re-listen to episode 118, where we talk about the role of a realtor. But the most important job that we do at an open house is actually the security of the home. A busy open house is exciting, but if the realtor is by themselves, protection of the seller's personal belongings and realtor's personal safety are of paramount importance. If you're chatting with a realtor and they're glancing around at other people in the home, now you'll understand why. They have to be vigilant at all times. I'm lucky to have Roger working with me full time, and we always do our open houses together. Here are some do's and don'ts when you visit your next open house, all based on personal and real-life experiences. Number 1, do eat the snacks. We don't want to pack all that stuff up and take it home, or worse, eat it all by ourselves. Number 2, don't sit on the sofa and make yourself at home. Sellers do not dig this, and it's uncomfortable for the realtor because we don't want to have to ask you to leave. You look so comfy. Number 3, do sign the visitor's log. We have to share feedback with the seller about all the people that came through the open house. Number 4, don't avoid the realtor. We promise we won't make you buy it if you don't like it. And if you're acting shady, we're going to be on you like flies on honey. Number 5, do tell us what you think. We learn a lot from potential buyers, and we want your feedback. Number 6, don't give a fake name and phone number when the realtor asks you to sign in. Just put "do not call" next to your name, and most realtors will honor that request. Number 7, if you are already working with a realtor, do put their name on the visitor log so the agent can reach out to them with important information and updates about the house. Number 8, do talk to us. You may be the only human we've seen in the last 2 hours. We can't survive without people interaction, so you are the hero of the day. So come on in, take a look around, and see yourself living here. Hope to see you at an open house real soon. For the About Mansfield podcast, I'm Beth Steinke with Century 21 Judge Fight.
This week's cocktail of the week is the Gold Rush. The Gold Rush is a modern classic cocktail that has quickly become a favorite among whiskey lovers and cocktail enthusiasts alike. The simple yet delicious concoction showcases the perfect balance of bourbon, honey syrup, and fresh lemon juice, creating a refreshing and satisfying drink that's perfect for any occasion. The origins of the cocktail can be traced back to the early 2000s when it was created by T.J. Siegel, a bartender at the famed and before-mentioned Milk and Honey Bar on the Lower East Side in New York City. Siegel was inspired by the classic whiskey sour, but wanted to drink a drink that was slightly sweeter and more approachable for patrons who might not be accustomed to the bold flavors of a traditional sour. To achieve this, Siegel replaced the simple syrup with a honey syrup, which added a deeper, more complex sweetness to the drink. He also adjusted the proportions of the ingredients, using a bit more lemon juice to balance out the sweetness of the honey and the richness of the bourbon. The result was a cocktail that was both familiar and innovative, with a perfect balance of sweet, sour, and boozy flavors. The Gold Rush quickly became a hit at Milk and Honey and soon spread to other bars and restaurants across the country. One of the reasons for Gold Rush's enduring popularity is clearly its simplicity. Unlike many modern cocktails that require obscure ingredients or complicated techniques, the Gold Rush can be easily made at home with just a few basic components. But don't worry about taking notes. As I'm giving out the ingredients and instructions, I will always post them on bourbongospel.com. So to make this beautiful Gold Rush cocktail, you need 2 ounces of a good bourbon, 3/4 of an ounce of honey syrup. Again, to make honey syrup, it's equal portions of honey and water brought to a boil to melt the honey in the water and then chilled. And then 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice. In a cocktail shaker, you're going to combine the bourbon, the honey syrup, and fresh lemon juice. Fill the shaker with ice, shake vigorously for 15 to 20 seconds in a well-chilled and slightly diluted. Then you're going to strain into a chilled rocks glass filled with fresh ice. Garnish with a lemon twist, expressing the oils over the drink before placing it in the glass. Another factor contributing to Gold Rush success is its versatility. While the original recipe called for bourbon, many bartenders have experimented using other types of whiskeys such as rye or even scotch to create unique variations on the classic. Some people have even played with the proportions of the ingredients, adjusting the amount of honey syrup or lemon juice to suit their personal taste or the preference of their customers. This adaptability has helped the Gold Rush to become a staple of modern cocktail menus and a go-to drink for whiskey lovers looking for something a little different. I was introduced to this drink about a year ago at a bar where the bartender simply did not have a cocktail menu and said, "What are you feeling?" And I said, "I want a bourbon-forward cocktail that has citrus and a little bit of a bite," and the Gold Rush is what I was served. But despite its relatively short history, the Gold Rush has already earned its place in the pantheons of classic cocktails, combining its simplicity, versatility, and perfectly balanced flavors to make it a favorite among bartenders and drinkers alike. But as you make this cocktail at home, don't forget to raise a glass to TJ Siegel and the bartenders that have helped make the Gold Rush yet another modern classic and savor the simple pleasures of a perfectly crafted drink. As always, I'm open to hear your take and your input. You can reach me at brian@bourbongospel.com. And until next week, as Mark Twain said, too much of anything is bad, but too much whiskey is barely enough. Reporting for the About Mansfield podcast, I'm Brian Certain.
Hey there, it's Luke from Cool Hand Electric. Are you tired of dealing with plugs or lights that just won't cooperate? Well, don't fret. Give us a call. Worried about power outages or surges damaging your precious electronics? We've got you covered. Whether it's a whole house generator or surge protection, our solution-oriented Cool Hands are ready to tailor the perfect option that suits your needs and budget. At Cool Hand Electric, excellence is still cool.
Cool hand, cool hand, cool hand, where excellence is still cool.
I'm Philip Washington, Chief Investment Officer of Stonehill Wealth Management and host of the Wealth Building Made Simple podcast. First book I read in college was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it changed my life. And since then, I've read tons and tons of books on money. And what I've done is taken those lessons, simplified them, and I talk about those lessons on my podcast, Wealth Building Made Simple. So come hang out with us. We're on every major platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. Wealth Building Made Simple.
At Methodist Mansfield Medical Center, we've been caring for our home team for over 15 years. Today, you'll find award-winning physicians on the medical staff, advanced neurosurgery, a Level 3 trauma center, critical care for newborns, and comprehensive orthopedic care. Methodist Mansfield, delivering the care our friends, neighbors, and home team depend on. That's community, and why so many people trust Methodist.
Hi, this is Joe Jenkins with Joe Jenkins Farmers Insurance, specializing in auto, home, commercial, and life insurance. I was born and raised here in Mansfield, Texas. We're active in the community, and Mansfield's a town we really care about. Our office has over 30 years' experience in the insurance industry, and we're passionate about what we do and about customer service. For a free quote, please visit our website at joejenkinsinsurance.com or give us a call at 817-472-6058. Once again, that website is joejenkinsinsurance.com.
Imagine a city where innovation knows no bounds, where dreams take flight, and the future unfolds before your very eyes. Welcome to Mansfield, a beacon of growth and a testament to vision. In the heart of Mansfield, a remarkable transformation is underway. But it's not just about the physical landscape. It's about the spirit that drives us forward. A spirit of collaboration that bridges cultures, a spirit of entrepreneurship that fuels prosperity, and a spirit of community that binds us as one. Mansfield is more than just a place. It's a canvas where diversity paints the picture of progress. From art festivals that ignite creativity to tech hubs that redefine boundaries, this city celebrates every voice, every passion. Mansfield, where growth knows no limits and the vision is limitless. Brought to you by the unstoppable spirit of the Mansfield Economic Development Corporation.
Hi, I'm Casey Lewis, and you're listening to About Mansfield.
Welcome back to another segment of About Mansfield. I'm Steve Casillo as we make the transition from news to talk. And in the studio today, I always like having business people in the studio. And in this case, he is the president of the second largest employer in Mansfield, and we'll talk about that coming up in this segment. Juan Fresquez is the president of Methodist Mansfield Medical Center, and welcome to About Mansfield.
Thank you. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. And for those who are listening, this interview is being recorded on Tuesday, July 12th, and if I recall, this is coming out July 20th. So next week, you will be our featured guest. And really wanted to have you in here because I know you're relatively new to Mansfield, relatively meaning, I've been here for 18 years. So in a sense that you're relatively new. But I want to go back and essentially introduce you to Mansfield because I know that the leaders of Mansfield know who you are. The leadership, you went through Leadership Mansfield and you know a lot of the city people, but the population in general, do they know Juan Fresquez? And so, first of all, let's go back. Where were you born?
I was born in Dallas. And so actually at Baylor. And so a little bit different now, a different campus than what they had originally. But that was, almost 60 years ago in 1963 before Kennedy came through.
Yeah.
But I was born in Dallas, grew up in the kind of the White Rock area, and went to high school at the High School for Health Professions, which we were one of the early classes for those magnet schools, and left in 1981 to go to college. And so I left the Metroplex. I was gone for almost 40 years before finding my way back home finally to back to the Metroplex.
You were born in Dallas at Baylor. And is that hospital still there?
It is not. The one that I was at was on Gaston Avenue, and
Okay.
I don't believe that's where their main campus is. I believe they've relocated, and of course now they have a bunch of different satellite facilities, but a few hospitals then in the area.
Where'd you go to school? To high school?
I went to the High School for Health Professions, which started out. My first high school was at Skyline, and was attending one of the early clusters there, a science cluster. And after the first semester, the DISD opened the magnet schools, which at the time were the transportation magnet, the arts, kind of like what would have been like the Fame High School, if you remember the old Fame series, TV series, the Health Professions High School, and the I guess pre-law high school. And so there were 4 magnet schools at the time that were kind of new ventures for the Dallas Independent School District.
So this is like a Ben Barber type, although kind of spread out amongst Dallas.
Correct.
Okay.
And so, early adoption of that. And what's kind of interesting is that some of the medical staff that I've come to know now at the Methodist Health System also attended that high school.
You're a science geek.
I am. And
okay,
so, My undergrad was in nuclear medicine, and I minored in physics, and that's kind of where everything started.
I think everybody's got a little bit of geek in them. It just depends on what it is. And all right, science. And I'm a music geek. My son's a band geek, and we've all got a little geek in us. But science, that was what started me off. And so again, left the Metroplex to go to college in San Antonio, and what is now the University of Incarnate Word. At the time, it was Incarnate Word College back then. Incarnate Word College.
Yes.
And in San Antonio, by the way, San Antonio, one of my favorite cities in Texas.
It's a beautiful city.
The Mexican food is, my wife is from Mexico, and so she's very picky about her Mexican food. And she says, hey, San Antonio is the real deal. That in the Metroplex, you get Tex-Mex. And she goes, nope. San Antonio is. Going back, you're jumping ahead a little bit here. All right, let's go back to high school.
Sure.
Hobbies, classes. You were involved in any clubs, extracurricular?
Let's see. I played basketball. Was on the yearbook staff. So we put out 3 yearbooks, I think, during my time there. A chess club, maybe. It's been a long time to try to remember back, pushing 50 years now.
I'm almost there too.
Yeah, so but great times. The high school at the time was in downtown Dallas on Ross and Carroll, and that I've been back since coming back. Home here to Mansfield. I've had an opportunity to drive in that area, and it's the building that was there isn't even there.
Huh.
I think it used to be an old J.C. Penney's, and so then it was a warehouse that they converted into a health magnet school, a school that it didn't look like a traditional school, but they had kind of gutted the interior and made classrooms, and then there was a separate campus that was right behind where the hospital was that I was born, which is no longer there. And that was an old elementary school that the school district reconverted, and that was the technical school where they did dental hygienics, dental lab technology, which was one of the courses that I took while I was in high school. I actually came out of high school thinking I wanted to be a dentist. And interviewed and actually worked for a dental lab, making dentures, crowns, bridges, partial plates, veneers, a lot of the dental work. And we had dental clients around the community that I delivered to when we picked up.
There's a company on Main Street that does crowns. Yeah. And they do it for all over the Metroplex.
And there's a few, dental labs out there.
Yeah.
And the dentists have, contracts with them and send out their work for, production. And then those are sent back to the dentist office and refitted, and the dentists kind of clean them up and they're off to the races. And then, also did some orthodontic work, some retainers, and some of that work's a little more specialized.
Yeah.
Did that for a year and realized that I really needed to get started on my further education. And so save some money and then off to college.
What we're talking late 70s, early 80s. What's Juan doing on a Friday night in Dallas in high school?
Oh gosh, working.
Working.
So I was spent a lot of time at Captain D's, which was old Shoney's seafood restaurant.
Captain D's,
kind of like a McDonald's or Long John's.
Okay,
very similar. Not a whole lot of them now. But
was that your first job?
No, my first job was at a Skaggs Albertsons I guess my very first job was working at a steakhouse as a busboy. Okay. And a friend of mine's mother was the manager. And so we got in, I think we were probably 13 years old at the time. So that restaurant's long since closed. And then of course paper routes. But I think the first real job would have been as working as a sacker and then eventually a stocker at Skaggs Albertsons.
Skaggs Albertsons. And is that location still there?
I haven't been back to that area of town, so I don't know.
could go in and say, I used to work here as a bagger.
A bagger, yeah.
And look at me now.
Oh, gosh. Times change.
Which would actually be a great learning moment for the bag boys then, who are working there now, going, someday you could be the president of a medical center. And anyway, moving on. You went to San Antonio for college.
Yes.
And the Incarnate, again, the name of the
University of Incarnate Word now.
University of Incarnate Word is presumably a Christian.
It is a Catholic liberal arts college. That's how they defined it then. And so it's changed a lot through the years, grown considerably since the time I was there.
How's their football team?
Actually, they didn't have football at the time, so I became a big UT fan because, San Antonio, Austin's relatively
right up
close.
the street.
And but they have a football team now, and from what I understand, they've done very well. My first while I was in college, I played. I was on the golf team, but also was one of the initial first-time soccer team members. And so we formed a soccer team, and we had an intramural group that played around the city. And eventually, we talked to the dean of the college, and he allowed us to meet with the athletic director and formed a soccer team. So I was one of the
founding members of the soccer team.
And so we've had some get-togethers through the years. It's a great time though, and those are busy times. That university was interesting. It used to be an all women's university, and they're specialized in nursing. They were one of the first big bachelors of science in nursing programs in the state, and produced a lot of strong nurses. And I didn't know that until I got there and realized there was a strong emphasis in the sciences. And and I had a scholarship, so it was a full ride scholarship. So it was obviously I had a choice between going to Waco or going to San Antonio. And at the time, Waco was very undeveloped. It wasn't quite as it isn't the Waco of now.
Right.
And
they didn't have the silos.
I didn't have the silos right. There was no there was no Magnolia. It was definitely a much smaller city compared to the DFW area.
But they got the Dr. Pepper Museum.
Well, I had a choice between San Antonio and Waco, so I took San Antonio because
I think that was the better choice.
And then it actually worked out well for me. And I could have gone full ride to Baylor, but in hindsight, that certainly would have been an option because they did have a football team, and they were certainly a more developed university. But I preferred the smaller university, better student to teacher ratios, and I learned well.
How did your college experience or education lead you to where you are today?
As I said, I majored in nuclear medicine.
Right.
And originally was planning on going pre-dental and just took to the sciences. I just enjoyed all the physics classes I was taking, and actually met my wife. She was a math major and a music major. So she was double majoring. And, we had kind of connected a few times in classes because obviously it was on the physics side, a lot of mathematics. And so we had kind of seen each other. And then I needed to take an elective course. And so my friends had said, "Hey, take choir. It's an easy A, and it's not a lot of studying required, so you'll have plenty of time to do your studying." So I went to choir, and that's when I really met my wife to be, and become my best friend. And now we've been married for this October. It's going to be 34 years.
Wow. And we talked off the air. You can sing.
Oh gosh. Well, no. I was in the choir.
Okay.
But believe me, there was not to the level of my wife and my kids. I've got 2 of my 3 children were also music majors.
Wow.
And so my oldest son is a tenor. He's in the Houston area. My daughter is a vocal performance major in a music education. So she actually teaches here in Mansfield now.
Really?
And,
you want to give her a little shout out?
Sure. Say hello, Gabriella. She's a teacher at T.A. Howard Middle School. She's a choir director there. And I think we're going to see great things from her. She's got a great voice, a great vocal talent. She sings for the Dallas Symphony Chorus and is just really, really talented. Great soprano.
Your daughter and my son sound like they have similar paths. He is also a music major. He's actually now working on his doctorate in music and music performance, but is also a singer. He's one of these guys that when he was attending UNT as a freshman and walks into the choir department and he says, "Hey, I'm brand new here at the university. I want to join a choir." And the guy reaches into his file cabinet, pulls out a piece of music, says, "Here, can you sing this?" And he goes, he sight reads and starts singing it, and was immediately placed on the I forget the name of the choir. It's the university's top choir as a bass 2, which is the lowest.
That's pretty low.
Yeah. He loves to brag about his deep voice, but it's fun watching the progress, and you've probably watched that in your daughter, the progress of them as a beginning singer now to where they are singing in a symphony choir, and
just amazing talents to. I get in front of people and speak, oftentimes, but to get in front of people and sing is a whole different level of courage that I would not want to have or even attempt.
Well, as a musician, I can say, yes, the first at least half a dozen gigs that I did, and those were all back in California, were nerve-wracking. And I think the first time I ever played in public was in my own garage with a garage band, literally a garage band. And yeah, it's frightening getting up in front of people and to perform.
I could only imagine. And seeing my wife having our kids, singing at church, doing solos in second grade, small children,
right.
Just amazing. I could never do that. And, of course, my kids know. I've been very proud of them.
Let's talk about your first career job then out of college. Where'd that take place?
So prior to graduation, I was required to do an internship, kind of a residency, if you will, and that took me to a military base in San Antonio. Wilford Hall Medical Center. It was at Lackland Air Force Base. At the time, it was the largest Air Force hospital in the world, over 1,000 beds, huge hospital, coveted assignment that the university had with the Air Force. It was the top assignment that an intern could have and so we were all competing for that one because there were many other hospitals in the San Antonio area, but that was the one everybody wanted to go. So I was fortunate. I got selected to spend time there, and actually it was there. It's actually closed now. They've since decommissioned that hospital. But at the time, I did my year of residency there, stayed on for a little extra time. The officers at the base kind of liked having someone with a really strong background that could teach a lot of the courses. And I had been a TA or a teaching assistant at the university as an upperclassman, helping some of the younger. And so in the military, nuclear medicine technologist was actually an enlisted position, and you had to go through radiology as a radiology technologist first, and then when you re-upped and to add years of service, they would then train you in nuclear medicine. So most of those technologists were probably in 7 years already. So they were late 20s, starting to early 30s. And here I am, coming out of college. I'm 23 years old maybe. And now they've got me teaching courses to these folks. And I taught radiation biophysics, radioimmunoassay, radiation physics. So I was teaching a lot of these courses that the officers were having to teach. And so they saw, here's a guy that, can give us some relief. And so they kept me on for a while. I actually lived on base, had some of the benefits of an officer and tried to get commissioned. Wow. But there was no job at the time for the degree that I had. And so, that time passed. And so I moved on to took my first position at Parkland. So I, of course, came back home to the Dallas area and worked at Parkland for a very short period of time. So you can imagine I was at an active duty military hospital where everything's spit and polish.
Right.
Very routinely, we would get visits from high-ranking generals, Secretary of Defense. I remember, I think Caspar Weinberger came through at one point to visit the hospital. So, we really it was top end. Then to go to a county hospital, and at the time this was the old Parkland, was a bit of a culture shock for me, and it was not what I was used to. So I knew that didn't fit well for me, and so I interviewed at other times. And at the time in nuclear medicine, the place to be was not in the DFW area, but it was in the Houston area where the Texas Medical Center was. That's where the president of the Nuclear Medicine Society, the Society of Nuclear Medicine for the country was at the time. And so a lot of research was occurring there. So I moved to Houston and started working for Columbia Hospital, which is now HCA, and worked there in the Humble or Atascocita area.
Okay. Going back to Parkland for just a second, though, I just read yesterday that it's slated to be torn down.
I don't know.
And the old Parkland Hospital is and it's actually going because they have to kind of it's not just going to be imploded. They have to disassemble a lot of it. It's going to take a couple of years, but it was, I believe it was on the nightly news last night that stating that, this is the hospital that John F. Kennedy passed away in. And it's slated to be torn down.
Well, that's, again, I haven't been back to Parkland since my arrival back to the Metroplex and to Mansfield 3.5 years ago now. I came in February of 2019. So just a year before COVID, I was able to get settled in and glad I was here, believe me, to be able to lead the team through the pandemic. It was, again, it's a great facility, and we're going to get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we are. I digressed back where you were talking about Houston, and
so I went to Houston, right, and worked for Columbia Hospital at the time, and ended up spending time in the Houston area 28 years. Popped around different hospitals there. Spent 29 years with Tenet Healthcare, and which is had hospitals here in the Metroplex for a number of years. Actually, our headquarters moved from Santa Barbara, California, to Dallas, and was actually in the downtown area in the Acker building, and so. Spent time in Houston, worked at Houston Northwest Medical Center, which those hospitals now, there were 5 of them, have been actually, three hospitals in the Houston area have been divested and sold to HCA. So I left Houston when Tenet acquired some hospitals in Arizona. Okay. And I had been with the company for a long time, and the regional CEO for Texas had asked me to be one of the executives to go and Tenetize those new hospitals that were acquired. And they were actually Ascension hospitals. So that was part of my role. I went to Arizona for 3 years, had a contract to work there. Large hospitals, almost just under 500 bed hospitals there. Yeah. There were 3 hospitals, 2 480 bed hospitals, and 1 critical access hospital on the border of Nogales there.
So you've been around.
I've been around.
You've been around.
But wanted to get back home to Texas.
Do you like to travel?
I do. My wife and I traveled a lot, and then, of course, work, unfortunately, over the past 2 years has limited a lot of us traveling.
Yeah, that's true. What's your favorite city in the world to travel to?
Oh, gosh. my wife and I really enjoyed going to Japan. We spent some time in the Chiba Prefecture in Noda. It's a small Japanese city that we just fell in love with.
And a few things that you fell in love with. What is it about?
I felt like there were times we walked everywhere, but there were times I felt like we'd gone back in time to the 50s. I remember walking down the sidewalk, passing a gas station, and saw a car pull up and drive over the cords that ring the bell.
Yeah.
And so the car parks, and I see 2 or 3 people run out.
And the attendants come out.
Checking tires, opening the hood, checking oil, filling gas. And my wife and I just stared at each other like, wow, this is, I hadn't seen that since the 70s.
Yeah.
And so it really took us back. And they were in uniforms. Then just the culture, very respectful. And we read, of course, we like to read a lot before we go travel to make sure that we're up to speed on the culture. But, one of the things that impressed me was their pride in everything they do. When I went to the bank to cash travelers' checks, the tellers, counted that money 3 times. And one of the things you never wanted to do was, take it and recount it in front of them. That's just an insult. No. And so the reverence, the bowing, it really was enjoyable because so much. I think we've lost so much humanity and just friendliness. Although not in Mansfield. I have to say that's. I knew when we got to Mansfield, this is where I wanted to retire.
Oh, nice! I was
like, this is it for me. This is going to be my last hospital, and I'm going to retire here in Mansfield. So we built our forever home.
That's good because one of the questions I thought of was, all right, he's gone from he's the president of Methodist Mansfield, but I know there's also Methodist Dallas. Does he have this ambition to move on to a bigger campus, a bigger medical center?
The Methodist Health System has 6 hospitals now, soon to be 7 when we open our hospital in Salina. And that's, we're in the process of breaking ground on that. And I would say the next few months. So exciting there to have another hospital. I actually opened the hospital, as was the president of the hospital. We opened in Midlothian when it first opened. And so it's not my first time being considered for other opportunities. The Methodist Health System, though, is defined to the DFW Metroplex area. And so whether I get asked to serve at another hospital in Methodist Health System, I don't think it's going to change where I live. But I really have no desire to do that. I'm enjoying what we're doing in Mansfield. We have great plans for the Methodist Mansfield Hospital, and I see myself being tied to what we're going to be doing for the next 5 years at the least.
Well, let's talk about those. February 2019 brought you to Mansfield, and
yes,
Methodist Mansfield just celebrated 15 years.
Yes.
You had this wonderful drone light show celebration, light display on the
first in Mansfield.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
on the 15th anniversary. And how did you actually come to Mansfield? You obviously there's the process. There's a job opening. You applied for the job, or someone sought you out and.
So usually for president, CEO type positions, if there's not a internal candidates in the pipeline, and many health systems now have those candidates in their pipelines that they're bringing up, they'll reach out to outside executive search firms. And so I knew I wanted to come back to Texas. I knew that Tenet, the health system I was working with, was divesting hospitals in the cities that I wanted to be. And so it became clear to me that I would have to leave that health system. So I put my name out with some different executive recruiters. They interview you and kind of figure out what where you'd like to be, kind of what your strengths are, experience, compensation expectations. They kind of have their stable, if you will, of candidates. And then when they get engaged to find candidates for different roles, they can kind of look at their team or their group of recruits and narrow that list down and present. And so that's how I came to Methodist. They were using a search firm that contacted me and said, "Hey, we know you want to be in Texas. We know what your interests are. Sure. We know what your strengths are." And at the time, Methodist was seeking a leader, knowing that that Methodist was going to be going from one hospital in Mansfield to another hospital that was going to be joining the Mansfield community, and they wanted a leader that was used to working in an environment where there was let's just say competition. And so
yes,
I
one down the street.
Yeah, one down the street.
Uh-huh.
I interviewed, and I was contacted and had a few video interviews. At the time, Zoom really wasn't happening back then. So I did a few video interviews, and then came in late. I think that was a late entry from what I've heard from some of our community leaders that were part of the interview process.
Okay.
And so when I showed up on the scene, I think my energy and my future vision for the hospital really got people excited. And that was next. And I loved this. As soon as I drove to the hospital and drove into the community, it was markedly different than I remembered from growing up in the Metroplex. Of course, I was familiar with the surrounding towns and cities surrounding the Metroplex. And I think I'd been through Mansfield when I was in high school, perhaps attending a football game or something. I don't remember what brought me down to Mansfield. And what a change. When I drove in and saw the hospital, it looked to me almost like a hotel.
Oh, sure.
That was what was striking at first. And I knew just from looking at the hospital, that was energizing. Then
it seems, as you pass by it, it seems like it's the anchor of the city. You've down the street, you've got City Hall, which is in a sense the anchor, but you've got this really this five-story building that is got to be one of the tallest in Mansfield.
I think it is the tallest.
Of
course, we're looking to expand and make it even taller.
What when you started in 2019? What was the most difficult part of your job settling in versus now in 2022? What is the most difficult part of your job?
Well, certainly much has changed with the pandemic, and the priorities changed quite a bit for I think for all healthcare providers. I knew coming in that we had a mission, which was to continue to be the healthcare of choice for the community. And my two predecessors had done a remarkable job of developing the hospital, developing a very strong culture within the hospital with the employees and the medical staff, and then developed just really strong relationships with the community. And that was probably the biggest pressure point for me, was not having any of that backslide. And and unfortunately, that was a big challenge during the pandemic when we were all sequestered, and so it made it very difficult to continue to nurture and support the relationships in the community the way we used to in the past, because events weren't occurring like they to give us the opportunity to be visible and sponsor in ways that we had in the past. So that first year was all about. People think that healthcare is just about providing quality healthcare, which it is. That's the number one goal for us. But it's also about relationships. And, that's because patients have a choice. Physicians have a choice of where they want to practice. And so knowing that there was, again, soon to be other healthcare systems entering our marketplace, it was important for us to continue to work hard to be the choice that patients would want. Right. And so much of the energy and thinking at the time had been about just making sure that we continue to do what we're doing so that patients want to continue to come to Methodist Mansfield for their care. I was, thinking a little bit more forward and realizing that as the community is growing and continuing to grow, we as a health system need to not just grow from an expansion perspective, but grow from a services perspective. And so we have a word we use in healthcare we call acuity, which is the level of care that we provide. So, I knew we would need to start delivering a higher acuity service.
Right.
And so for example, for cardiac, most hospitals are doing cardiac catheterizations. That's a pretty routine cardiac procedure. But starting to do electrophysiology, which is treating atrial fibrillation. Maybe starting to look at structural heart programs where we're expanding now the services that we provide to a higher level. And so looking at all the different service lines and where we were at the time when I arrived, and meeting with the medical staff and finding out where are the gaps that we have to fill to take us to that next level. When I arrived, we were a level 3 trauma center. We're still a level 3 trauma center, but we're on our way to become a level 2 trauma center. And to put that in perspective, if you think about the highest level is level 1 trauma center. That's right. What Parkland is. That's what JPS is. That's what Methodist Dallas is. The next level is a level 2 trauma center. And the only difference between a level 1 and a level 2 is having residents and research. But everything else clinically and the care delivery that you have to provide for emergent trauma patients is the same level of expectation that is required from the American College of Surgeons to deem that level of trauma.
So to get to level 2, we need a larger city, more residents?
No. When I say residents, I meant
residents
medical,
that are working in.
I meant medical, because you have interns that are physicians that go through their internship, and then they choose to specialize, and so they become residents, and so they're.
And then research, meaning that it's a teaching, learning.
Not necessarily an academic facility or a university type facility, but more doing research and some conducting research. And so we're actually can check that box. We're doing quite a bit of research, but having residents, medical staff residents is a little more challenging because you have to have what we call graduate medical education slots for residents to apply and fill. And those are much harder to they're a finite number. And so we have all of our residents at Methodist Dallas. And that's where our slots are cohorted. And again, there's no reason for us to pursue level 1 when level 2 provides the care that we want to deliver to the community at that high level. And so that's the exciting part for us as the community of Mansfield's growing. There is no level 1 trauma center this far south. And so with this bifurcation of Highway 287 and 360, where Methodist Mansfield's sitting is the perfect location for us to be that first point of care for patients to the south, to not have to chopper all the way into Dallas or all the way into Fort Worth. And so it was, what I saw is we really need, Methodist needs to move forward in our thinking and raise our level of acuity to be able to provide that level of care. And it's understood that as a community hospital that we've been for the past 15 years, that care is always going to be needed. But we need to be providing this high level of care so that our patients in Mansfield, our citizens in Mansfield, aren't having to leave for high level trauma. And that is something that to me is very important and something that I see we must accomplish. When I tell people, when I left Dallas back in 1981, my family had actually moved to Richardson, and my younger brother was going to Lake Highlands High School. And so he played, basketball, played against the Plano high school team. And so we went to Plano a lot. And I remember thinking, I saw how Plano was then and what they've become now. And when I got back to Mansfield, or to the Metroplex and moved into Mansfield, I saw Mansfield and said, this kind of reminds me of where Plano was 40 years ago. And so having the opportunity to see that internally in my head and know this is where we're destined to be really put in my head what we need to do at the hospital,
right?
To get ahead of that. And so that then takes us to the plans that we have for expansion. And
which actually leads into my next question.
Sure.
And that my wife and I moved here in 2004 where there was no hospital. And then now
in 2006,
2006, we've watched the hospital expand. There was just the first professional building. Now there's the second professional building, the
second tower.
The second tower. What's in the future of Methodist Mansfield?
Exciting.
A third tower?
A third tower, absolutely.
Seriously, okay.
We have quite a bit of space that Methodist purchased, and that was good thinking, wise thinking on the health system's part to acquire quite a bit of land to allow for expansion and growth. I think the hospital's grown faster than anyone expected. We have in our second tower, the B tower, it was built, opened in 2016. Mm-hmm. And at that time, we left the very top floor as a shell floor. So it is white boxed. It's finished out, but it's not complete. It's not completed. So you can, get up in there and it's air conditioned, but there's the rooms. It's just open.
Yeah.
And so the first plan is to build out that shell floor, which our goal is to have that be an expansion of our ICU critical care beds. And, which really fits the plan for us raising our acuity level. We obviously have more need for ICU beds. And so that's the first phase. The second phase will be to expand, add double our number of operating room suites. So we currently have 8 ORs, 8 operating rooms, and we will take that to 16 operating rooms. So that's phase 2. In order to move the operating rooms out, we are going to need to, push out into the street that's behind the hospital. And so we have this road back there. We have this Hospital Drive.
Hospital Drive, yeah.
That goes from Matlock across to Miller. And so our plan is to actually take that road and move it to the roundabout on Matlock and connect to that roundabout.
Oh, that roundabout. Everybody hates that roundabout, but except for me.
So that roundabout will then have a spur that comes off and cuts across to Miller to really join our campus fully. And that will then create the space for us to be able to build out our third tower. The third tower that we're envisioning as part of our master plan is a 7-story tower.
Wow.
So they'll actually be peeking out above the B tower and visible on Broad. And so we'll have, for me, it's very important that we not only provide the additional services we need in those additional beds, but also have the curb appeal remain or be appealing as we drive by. So those exterior elevations are very important. And so, I want the what we see on that third tower from Broad Street to be really beautiful. And it will actually be a Matlock-facing tower. So instead of continuing to come out horizontally, kind of connecting the tower, it'll spur off into the back of the campus and kind of run parallel to Matlock.
All right.
And move out towards our second medical office or professional office building. Ideally, I'd like to have a connector to that second office building so that our medical staff can come without having to leave exterior.
And to go out in the 105-degree heat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then there has been a lot of conversations that I've had recently with the city to try and ensure that the development that we have and the plans that we have match and marry well with what the city may be planning for future expansion as well.
One of the major news stories to come out of Methodist Mansfield, at least recently, is the co-op between the hospital and Texas Tech School of Nursing. Yes. And how did that come together? So,
we talk a little bit about how things changed from when I was here in 2019 to when the pandemic started to hit. Mm-hmm. We've known in the healthcare industry for quite some time, as we look forward, that the age of our workforce was going up, and so there was. I guess all the prognosticators were seeing that there was going to be this national nursing shortage that was expected to occur, and we were going to have a significant deficit of nurses coming in the next 5 to 10 years that just we would lose through attrition. When the pandemic hit, that escalated that outmigration of nurses. There were, what I'm happy to say is I think all of us in healthcare expected many of the nurses that were close to retirement to just say, I didn't sign up for this.
Right.
And I think I'm going to go ahead and call it quits and retire early. And that happened across the country quite a bit, but that did not happen in Mansfield. It was the exact opposite. We had nurses that retired that actually came out of retirement through a sense of duty.
Wow.
And it was it gave me goosebumps. And even today when I'm talking about it, I still my heart warms because that's the community we live in. And that's why I fell in love with Mansfield and knew immediately this is where I wanted to live and this is where I wanted to retire. And so we saw this need for nurses. And there's many more interested students that want to become nurses than there are nursing programs to accommodate them. And so every nursing program is turning away applicants, and that became a concern for us. And so I'd had some experience in Tenet. Tenet, we had a lot of experience working with Texas Tech. Particularly in our El Paso area, they had partnered with Texas Tech, and there's actually a medical school now that they have that works there in that area. So, we had relationships and I was aware of the players, and so I kind of had some experience in working with Texas Tech. My predecessor, the prior president of the hospital, had reached out to start this process, and it just wasn't that. I don't think the timing was right with the city at the time, and so. And nothing really came out of that. When I arrived, one of the first things I had said, even in my interviews to some of the city leaders that were as part of my interview, and I was talking about the growth that we're seeing in Mansfield and, where I felt we needed to, as a hospital, but also as a city, needed to move. And one of the things that takes us to that next level is a university presence and a convention center. So having a large place, we're fortunate that we have the Performing Arts Center with the school district, which has served as that convention center, if you will, but doesn't really have the hotel supporting it. And so there is a need, and that's something that communities and cities that are taking that next step, that's a big tipping point that kind of moves them into that next phase. And so just kind of seeing that and talking about that we needed a university presence, the city manager at the time had mentioned, we had talked to Texas Tech at one time and nothing ever came out of it. And I was saying we need to circle back and have that discussion. So we re-began conversations with Texas Tech and eventually got the city partnered with the Methodist Health System to bring them here. And so it's a difficult arrangement because the Texas Tech, it has it's a state school, so they get state funding. Mm-hmm. But that state funding doesn't kick in until year 3. And so for the first 2 years, they're completely dependent on support. And so support from, in this case, from the Methodist Health System, but also from the city of Mansfield. So we provided seed funding to support the build out of their space, their faculty salaries, and of course then the students have their tuition. But that in and of itself isn't going to be enough to get them started. And so that partnership or that collaboration with the city and Methodist Health System made that happen. And again, our first cohort of graduates will graduate this December.
Oh,
and
nice.
We're excited that first cohort's 20 students. So we'll have 20 graduates that are coming through. And then there will be, from what I understand, 20 graduates. So I think there were a few that had washed out, but they quickly backfilled them. And so we're back up to 20 graduates.
And will any of these 20 funnel into the Methodist, whether it's...
Well, certainly that's our hope.
Yeah.
One of the stipulations that we asked for of the university was that we wanted them to accept applicants that were local.
Sure.
What we really didn't want to have happen was this campus become a training facility for nurses that were going to graduate and then go back to their homes in another city or another state. While that would be good for the overall nursing, and it would not really be best for the city of Mansfield or for our service area community. Right. And so I'm happy to say that when that first cohort of students, when that class started accepting applications, I believe they had 86 applicants in the first 2 days. And so they filled all 20 slots in record time. And the university said when we opened our campus in the Permian Basin, it took us a while to fill the cohort of students. But 2 days, I was told.
2 days, because they all want to live in Mansfield.
I think so. Well, or there was that many that were interested and that just didn't have access. And so all of those, this first class are local. So we are excited and hopeful that all of those graduates will stay in our service area. And
with all of the expansion going on and the future expansion, you're the president of the second largest employer in Mansfield. Do you envision becoming the first? And I believe to be the first, you're about 700 or 800 employees shy.
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
To that number. That's I've been fortunate to have conversations with my counterpart at the largest employer,
at Mauser,
and we've had again. I thought it was good for us to come together and at least meet as the two larger employers. And again, while we're in completely different industries, it's important that we are supporting the community and that we're somewhat aligned. I kind of wanted to make sure that I shared kind of what my thoughts and visions were, because again, together we're probably talking almost 35, just under 4,000 employees,
right?
That likely are residents in the community, in our service area, in our community, and so decisions that we make affect the lives of thousands. And
I would assume CEOs all over town. You shook the hand of one as I was escorting you down the hall here, that the CEO here of Somark appears to be a good friend of yours.
Well, James and I are good friends, and that's it is important that, again, the employers, we stay aligned, and we're while we all are in different industries, we have the decisions that we make. It's an awesome responsibility because decisions we make affect the lives of not just our employees, but our employees' families in many cases. And It's an awesome responsibility that, when I first became a hospital administrator, was a question that a newspaper had asked me once, what keeps you up at night? And you would think, the terrible things that might happen in a hospital. But my initial thought was, if I make a bad decision, it could affect the lives of the employees and their families, and those decisions ripple, and so I am always conscious of that responsibility, and so oftentimes that's not something that our employees think, or even our community think that we're thinking, is on our top of mind. And so it is important that, I make sure that we make sure as leaders that our visions and plans are aligned so that we don't do things that are going to really undermine or hurt community growth as a whole.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason that I wanted to connect with Glenn over at Mauser, to kind of make sure if there's anything you need or if there's any support. They may have accidents that occur, and I want to make sure that he knows how he can get in touch with us, and we're here to support. Same thing with Dr. Cantu and the team at the school district.
Right.
We're here to support the community, and that's, as leaders, we need to support each other, and that's what, when I talked earlier about, it's not just about healthcare, it's about relationships. That's kind of what I was meaning.
Sure.
It is. And so
and it all starts at the top.
And it does. And that's the culture that we have at the hospital. And it's the culture that I'm proud to say that I believe our employees have and share when they're taking care of patients. I mean, they understand the responsibility, so much so that when I talked about the pandemic hitting us and these nurses coming out of retirement, the first nurses that staffed our COVID unit were oftentimes the nurses that were at the highest risk, the older nurses, the senior nurses. And not to say that they weren't all willing to jump in and serve, but, I would have thought that the older nurses would have said, we're starting to see that this pandemic is really impacting those, 60 and above. And, they didn't hesitate. They knew their jobs, and they knew their duty. And I actually felt like I was back in a military hospital, where duty and honor, these were things that I was seeing that I hadn't seen in 30 years. And now I come to Methodist Mansfield, and this is the culture I'm back in. So it reminded me why I got in healthcare at the very beginning. It's not about making money. It's not about high margins. It's not about it's about taking care of patients, and it's about taking care of people, and it's about those relationships, and that's
giving back.
Giving back. That's why I got into healthcare originally, and coming to Methodist Mansfield, that was the reminder for me to say, this is why. And this is what you've been searching for, because I was working for a for-profit healthcare system. Yeah. We're answering to shareholders, and it's a high-stress job. And, you're at times having to, cut employees, and, you're making tough decisions that, again, impact people's lives, and trying to balance that while also make, sure your shareholders are happy. I have to tell you, working for Methodist as a nonprofit healthcare system, it allows me to use the strengths that I've learned in growing, developing, managing efficiently, and reducing waste, which is again helping our staff stay gainfully employed and provide high level services for the community.
That's awesome.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's just great. What we do at the hospital is just phenomenal. And I'm so proud of each and every one of the employees and the medical staff.
Juan Fresquez, what's your favorite ice cream?
Chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip. Any particular brand?
Bluebell, of course.
Oh, it's.
Let me tell you, when I was in Arizona, that was one of the most painful things to not have access to. And one day, I was in the grocery store with my wife, and we saw Bluebell there. And
in Arizona.
It was never. It came. They had just started shipping, and so we had heard it was coming, and we were there day one. And my wife took a picture of me with a big smile on my face right there at the opening the refrigerator door with all this Bluebell ice cream in the grocery store.
Well, that's like when Yuengling beer finally came to Texas.
Yes.
It was like, oh, yeah.
So I missed that. I missed the Shiner beer. There were things, yes, that was, but that's my favorite ice cream, Bluebell chocolate chip.
All right. No one, I've done about 120 interviews, and no one has ever mentioned my favorite ice cream. So
which one is yours?
It is also Bluebell, but it is called Moo, as in Moo, what a cow does, Moo Linium Crunch, which is basically a vanilla ice cream with It does have chocolate chips in it, but it also has nuts and some other. But that with Hershey's chocolate syrup on top.
Man.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I'll have to try some of that.
Millennium Crunch. Everyone who sits in that very chair that you are in right now goes through what's called the lightning round.
All right.
This is 10 questions that to the listener. After they hear these 10 questions and the 10 answers, they are going to know more about Juan Fresquez, probably more than they care to know. But
I'm sitting up straight for this one.
All right. So this is a very simple exercise of this or that. Night or day?
Day.
Movie theater or Netflix?
Movie theater.
Football or baseball?
Football.
Cardio or weights?
Cardio.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Over or under?
Over.
Buy or sell?
Oh, buy.
Superman or Batman?
Oh, Superman.
Have you ever asked anyone for their autograph?
Absolutely.
Whose autograph have you gotten?
My very first autograph, I was a young man, and it was a Harlem Globetrotter, Meadowlark Lemon.
Meadowlark Lemon, of course.
So he was my very first. And then, of course, Curly was the second. And then, of course, so many through the years. Growing up in Dallas, cowboy autographs were coveted. And so I was fortunate at a certain point in time, we went to church with Roger Staubach. And so actually I went to school, to university with his daughter. She went to Incarnate Word as well, and is a nurse, I believe. But got, Roger Staubach's autograph and many of the Cowboys, Drew Pearson, through the years. And most recently, I think the most recent autograph was Texas Rangers. Pudge. That was, that was a big one. So
nice.
Got an opportunity to get Pudge's autograph. And so we've been very fortunate. Lots of autographs through the years.
Let's get to the 10th question.
All right.
Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Coffee.
Espresso.
That's
my wife's Italian, so.
I'm out of questions. And it's very, very rare that these interviews go an hour. And we've gone an hour and 3 minutes.
How about that?
And Juan Fresquez, this has been a delight. I had a bunch of other questions to talk about, but I know you're busy, and I'd love to have you back.
I would love to be back, Steve.
To talk because I really want to know. I was going to ask you about it had to have been some pretty tense times around the COVID pandemic, and just the new technology that's taking place in Methodist Mansfield. You've got the carpal tunnel, which Angel, your feature reporter here on the podcast, was talking about the new ultrasound
carpal tunnel release.
Yes, that and the robotics. I forget the name of the robot.
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci.
Yep.
There's so much more that we can talk about.
There is so much more. And then again, there's so much more to come as well.
Yes.
I'm excited about the future, and I'm excited about the services that we're going to be bringing. I mean, we're really working hard right now to expand and grow our neurosurgical program. And, many of our patients that need cranial surgery are having to leave the Metroplex, leave the Mansfield. And that's, we are months away from being able to have a very mature program here in Mansfield. We already have the physicians. They're currently in Mansfield. They're just having to take their patients elsewhere. So it's not going to be a new physician service. It's really, we're just going to be doing those patients at Methodist Mansfield. And that's the exciting part for us.
Well, here at the podcast, you have an open door. Whenever something happens, come to me through, whether it's through Angel, through a news release, or if you want to come back,
this has been a delight for me as well.
You've got an open door.
Always excited to share the great things that we're doing and talk about the great team that we have at Methodist Mansfield. I'm proud of each and every one of them. They're the ones that are saving lives. I just make sure that the bills get paid and the lights stay on, but they're the ones that are really doing the heavy lifting, and they're the ones that I think we all are proud of in the community for being on the front lines. I mean, they're truly lifesavers, and with all of our first responders as well. I mean, it's an honor to lead such a fabulous team.
Juan Fresquez, President, Methodist Mansfield Medical Center. I appreciate your time. Thanks for being on About Mansfield.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.